What's up, people? Well, we just got episode 5 of Dexter New Blood. We're officially halfway through this revival season. And I gotta say, episode 5 to me is probably the best episode of the season thus far. There was a lot of different things going on. There was some cool little reveals, cool little surprises. It actually propelled the plot forward quite a bit to where I get more of an idea where all these different characters are gonna be going for the back half of the season. And we do finally get our villain reveal in Clancy Brown, which I was kind of shocked how many people were so hard-nosed about that person not being Clancy Brown. But nonetheless, there's your answer. Clancy Brown is our official villain of this season. So, a lot of different things to unpack in this episode. The main storyline going through most of it is Harrison in response to the previous episode to where he prevented this school shooting in the middle of getting his dark passenger out on this kid at school. Dexter doesn't quite believe him because he knows that he at least faked the details of how the fight started, and he's starting to question Harrison a little bit. Harrison doesn't take too well to that and ends up going to this party and doing a bunch of drugs and ODing. And so most of the episode is setting up not only more turmoil between Dexter and Harrison as estranged father and son, but also setting up they were talking about Harrison's previous drug use in one episode where he kind of hinted that he had an issue with it, so maybe that's going to start playing more of a play into this season, more into his role, but also giving Dexter a freak of the week, giving him somebody to kill in this episode that's non-consequential to the plot, which is something that has certainly been a detail that's been omitted for most of this season that was pretty integral to the previous 8 seasons, was every couple episodes there was just somebody random that he was investigating while the main plot was going on, and he would kill that person as like a singular episode story. And it's the first episode that we've got that. And I think that's a very important piece of a Dexter season. So bringing that element back into it, having an episode that focused on him getting to kind of exercise his dark passenger, I think really did help make this episode feel like more of a standout for me personally. And as far as the Dexter and Harrison relationship goes, it's heading in an interesting direction in the sense that Dexter really does think that he's being a good father, but he is a horrible parent.
What do you think I did? Say it. If you did hurt him on purpose, you can tell me.
Like, he was this way exactly in the first 8 seasons to where he was never there. He was always darting away to go kill somebody or always leaving Harrison with the babysitter constantly to the point where she was basically his mother. I'm surprised he doesn't bring up Jamie more often. So many times where he did that, even when Rita was still alive, and him and her and Aster and Cody were always just, that was his cover. He was always leaving them at any chance he could get. And he does it again in this episode. His kid just OD'd, and he gets home and he's like, hey, here's your breakfast. You're going to go see this counselor today. All right, see you later. And then just leaves. And then comes back at like fucking 10 o'clock at night. It's like, hey, how was everything today? Oh, it was good. Doesn't check on it. Doesn't like verify any of that. So I don't know if that's going to eventually bite him in the ass. I don't know if he's eventually going to come to the realization that he really is bad for Harrison in one way or another. Yes, he might understand the dark passenger, but as a parent, he really doesn't have a whole lot to give. And as much as I think they're going a little bit too hard with Deborah just constantly being in his ass and not really giving any other shade to her character or her portrayal at all to mix that up, I think eventually he's going to come to realize that everything that she is saying to him and screaming at him for the past 3-4 episodes now is true. So I don't know. I don't know where things are going to go with that, but I am intrigued as a father myself where that father-son relationship is going to go. They're also building a bit of a relationship between Harrison and Clancy Brown's character of Kurt. The previous episode, whenever he was hailed as the town hero, he brought him this little drone and was kind of getting buddy-buddy with him. Now, whenever Harrison says, fuck this shit, and tries to leave town after Dexter doesn't believe him, he's the one that kind of stops him, gives him a job, talks to him, kind of gives him that father role that Dexter very clearly doesn't really understand how to do. And so I'm curious where that's going to go as well. Are we going to eventually get to a point to where Harrison's going to stand between Dexter and the villain of this season? I don't know, but it's a really interesting relationship that I'm seeing budding so far. And as far as Clancy Brown, I mean, like I've said for 5 episodes now, he is the main villain of the season. I knew that walking into the season, they said that clearly, but also every single time that they've shown him, whether it's just the corner of his eye looking at the security camera, whether it's underneath that white mask as he's getting ready to shoot somebody on that little reservation, I could tell it was him. And so now we at least know for sure he is the villain and can start speculating on why he's the villain. And there's some kind of a ritual that he has. There's some kind of a specific reason why he takes a runaway girl at a certain age, locks her in this room, watches her, doesn't want her to do anything sexual. You know, the chick starts to like take her top off, come take me. And he's like, stop it, no, that's not what this is about. So there's some kind of a ritual there to where even after he lets her free, if she doesn't run away and let him actually hunt her, he freaks out. So I'm more intrigued now with what trauma, what past event is causing him to have this, because it's very similar to the Trinity Killer, where things have to be a very specific way. Just killing somebody isn't enough, and so that intrigues me. We kind of went off on a bit of a side adventure with the sheriff and the podcast girl, and while I think the podcast girl is turning it up a little bit too much sometimes with her personality, I do kind of enjoy those two together. Two very different people. One's very hard-nosed and stoic and by the book, and the other one's kind of wild and promiscuous and a little bit free-spirited, and they work pretty well together as characters, going off and trying to prove visually or with some kind of information whether or not Kurt's son actually is in this hotel, the guy that Dexter killed in the first episode. And they get their answer. It's some random guy. So I don't know if that guy is going to play into the plot at some point. He's somebody that works for Clancy Brown. I don't know why Clancy Brown is having somebody pose as his son, maybe to keep the heat off of him. I really don't know. So that's going to be something we're going to get some more reveals with. And eventually we get our cameo of the season thus far with Angel, with Batista showing up in this little conference that our little girl gang decides to sit in on. And he ends up having this nice little conversation with the sheriff. And this is the one point in the episode where I'm going to have a bit of a nitpick. Because as much as I loved seeing Angel, and as much as my eyes perked up when I saw him and I was thinking about all these possibilities, like is he going to see Dexter? Is he going to find out that he's alive? What kind of questions, what kind of shitstorm is that going to cause? That's going to be an amazing scene when they get together. It doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything with him. It looks like it was literally just a cameo for that one scene, which, you know, is fine for what it is. It's nice to see that character, and they could surprise us. You know, I don't know for sure that he's not going to show up in episode 7, but it doesn't seem like they're going that direction. So I would have preferred he be in the story at some point and be the one that kind of blows up Dexter's cover as Jim Lindsay. Now, the nitpick side of this is the line of dialogue that he gives to the sheriff regarding Deb and then Dexter and then Harrison. Now, him bringing up Deb in the context of that conversation felt totally natural. It felt like it made sense because he's talking about the Trinity, the similarities to these girls being missing and the person that cracked the case. And then he just randomly brings up, oh yeah, she had a brother that died too. And he had a really cute kid. What was that kid's name? And then he walks away, and then all dramatically he goes, oh yeah, Harrison. I hated that. Again, nitpick, I understand what they were trying to do. A lot of you guys probably didn't have any issue with that. But my issue with that whole scene right there, with that little dialogue exchange at the end, is that it just didn't feel like natural dialogue for Angel Batista to be giving. For a multitude of reasons. One, bringing up the fact that she has a brother and the brother also died didn't really seem like it was relevant to the conversation. Bringing up the fact that the guy had a cute kid was definitely not part of the conversation, and so it just felt artificially forced to give her a little nugget of detail to start making her search for things that eventually leads to the reveal at the end of the episode that she finds an obituary of Dexter Morgan with Jim Lindsay's face right there. There's other more natural, organic ways for her to get that information, I think. But for me, as the character of Batista, it didn't make sense at all that he wouldn't remember who Harrison was. Deb and Dexter, especially Deb, were like family to Angel. He loved her like a sister, and he always confided in Dexter like a brother. He went to him for everything whenever he was getting ready to marry LaGuerta, any issues that he had with Deb, he always went to him for the crimes. I mean, these three were like family. Even to the point where Angel's sister was like a full-time mom with Harrison. Anywhere she was with Harrison. He probably saw this kid every fucking day. I don't buy at all that in the midst of all of this tragedy, in the midst of Deb dying and Dexter dying when there's hurricane in season 8 and Harrison literally fucking disappearing out of nowhere, that one, this guy would not have led an entire investigation trying to find where the hell Harrison was. and 2 would just forget what his name is. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That might as well have been like his nephew at that point. So I don't care how many years have passed since season 8. That just felt weird to me. So I harped on that too long, but just to give a little bit of a context, that was the one point in this episode where I was like, oh, doesn't quite work for me. Now, one more thing that I wanted to talk about is it's something that I'm a little bit mixed on, and I'm curious on how you guys are viewing this. I feel like they're making Dexter a little bit of an idiot this season, in a way that he's much more reckless, much more careless, and not nearly as methodical as he used to be. Now, I understand there's a time gap. I understand that he hasn't been killing for 10 plus years, and so they're trying to portray him as a little bit rusty. I bought that in the first episode. I even bought that to a smaller extent whenever he left a little bit of a blood trail and was running it over with the golf cart in episode 2. But here, we're now 5 episodes in. He's thick, he's back into Dexter mode. He understands the code. He gets every little tiny piece of equipment that he needs to do this, and he did it for years and years and years, so it should have been like riding a bike to a degree. You get this freak of the week. You get this guy who is making pills that eventually led to Harrison almost ODing, and Dexter decides, I'm gonna kill this fucking guy. So he gets the information that he needs, the name, as well as the address off of a piece of paper that is sitting there that they are currently investigating in the sheriff's office. Like, eventually, within the next 24 hours at most, they will be knocking at this guy's door, putting him under arrest and putting him up on charges. And what does he do? He goes to this guy's house and he, tranks him, and he makes the kill room in the fucking house that the cops are coming to. That didn't make any sense to me. Because inevitably, although it was, tension building, it felt artificial, that he's in the middle of killing this guy, and then he sees the detective downstairs that is sitting there waiting for backup, and he's like, fuck, and then he has to make his death look like an overdose so that he doesn't have to clean anything up, and then he gets the hell out of there within, presumably 20 minutes or whatever. Then the cops bust in and find him there OD'd. Why he decided to kill him in his house that the cops were eventually going to raid, that felt stupid to me. That felt like something that Dexter's never done. So that's another thing where I don't even think that's a nitpick. I just think that's something weird that they're doing with his character. I think it's purposeful. I think they're trying to make it where he's ultra rusty, but how do you guys feel about that? Do you believe that his character would be that rusty after 10 years to the point where he's being that reckless, or do you think that it's a little bit of a weird writing thing? Nonetheless, guys, that pretty much covers my thoughts on episode 5. I really enjoyed this. There was a ton of moving parts, a ton of little reveals, a ton of forward momentum in the plot. We got some nice classic Dexter flavor here with the introduction of Angel, as well as that Freak of the Week thing. So I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm really looking forward to where things are going to go now that his girlfriend knows that he's Dexter Morgan and where that's going to go as far as their relationship. So what do you guys think of episode 5 of Dexter? Did you love this one? Did you feel like it was a bit of a downbeat from a previous episode? Where do you see things going in the future? Let me know down below. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you are a Dexter fan. I'm going over every single episode of this season. Then once this season is over with, I'm going to rank all the seasons and rank all of the main Dexter villains. Plus, I've reviewed all previous 8 seasons over the past year, so you have all that information and all that backlog to check out if you're a fan. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of that. Thank you guys for watching as always, and remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.